There have been over 15,000 games played in the history of the NFL. Unless you're as old as Peyton Manning, you haven't seen every game, and neither have I. To narrow every game down to 5 is nearly infinite, and your list is probably much different from mine. So keep in mind that this is my opinion. I'm the S in Sox Sports, and let's get into the top 5 greatest NFL games ever played. Number 5, Colts vs. Giants 1958 NFL Championship game. In the 26th NFL Championship game, the Giant Unitas-led Baltimore Colts faced off against the Tom Landry and Vince Lombardi coached New York Giants. This game is credited as the birth of pro football into pop culture. It was the first nationally televised game, and an estimated 45 million people viewed it, along with the 64,185 in attendance at New York's Yankee Stadium. Another first of the game was that it was the first overtime game in NFL history, something that is a mainstay today. This game is great because of its championship stakes, its broken records, and the numerous Hall of Famers, and the clutchness of Johnny U. Baltimore wide receiver Raymond Berry finished the game with 12 receptions for 178 yards and 1 touchdown. His 12 receptions in the championship game stood for 55 years. Despite this outing from Raymond Berry and Unitas' 349 yards, the Colts still found themselves down late. What transpired next was 2 dramatic drives by Unitas, one to put the game into overtime by getting his kicker into the position, and a long drive in overtime finishing with a 1-yard TD run. The Colts won the game 23-17. After the game, Sports Illustrated touted it as the greatest game ever played. So why is the greatest game ever played not number 1? Because I feel it wouldn't hold up to everyone today.
Why is it in black and white? Why aren't the Giants passing? What's wrong with the goalpost?
Number 4, Giants vs. Eagles, Week 15, 2010. This 2010 Week 15 matchup between division rivals was very important for the upcoming playoff seeding. Coming into the game, the Eagles were behind 1 game for first place, but what ensued was an instant classic, though it didn't look like it in the first half, with New York grabbing a giant 24-3 lead going into halftime. By the fourth quarter, it looked more desperate, with the Eagles down by 21 with 8 minutes to go. What happened next is what propelled the game into the list. Michael Vick went back to the 2004 days and tied the game. A 65-yard Brent Selleck catch and run, a 4-yard TD run from Vick himself, and a Jeremy Maclin 13-yard catch and run put the game at 31 all. Then a Giants 3-and-out required them to punt to Deshaun Jackson. G-Jux fumbled it, picked it up, and ran 65 yards for the TD with no time left. The Eagles' fourth quarter heroics against seemingly insurmountable odds puts this game at number 4. Number 3, Dolphins vs. Chargers 1981 Divisional Playoff. This game carries an impactful legacy and numerous nicknames such as the Epic in Miami, the game no one should have lost, and the Miracle that died. A game with this many nicknames has to be special. The Don Dolphins against the Dan Fouts Air Coryell Chargers was a long contest at Florida's Muggy Orange Bowl. The Chargers bolted to a quick 24-0 first quarter lead, but it didn't take Miami long to come back, scoring 17 in the second, and from there on the game was a back and forth affair. Countless records were set through this epic. Most combined playoff points with 79, combined yards with 1,036, and combined passing yards with 809. Miami quarterback Don Stroke broke the record for most yards by a backup, finishing with 403 yards and 4 touchdowns. San Diego quarterback Dan Fouts also broke some records. He was 33 of 53 for 433 yards and 3 touchdowns. His attempts, completions, and passing yards all broke postseason records. The best performance, however, was by San Diego tight end Kellen Winslow with 13 receptions for 166 yards and a blocked field goal despite suffering from multiple injuries. The game went to overtime with San Diego kicker Rafe Berneski atoned for an earlier miss to win the game 38-41. Numerous records and high-scoring shootout excitement brings this game to number 3. Number 2, Bills vs. Oilers 1992 AFC Wildcard Playoff. This game is known as the Comeback, and rightfully so, as this game featured the biggest comeback in NFL history. Bills Hall of Famers Jim Kelly and Thurman Thomas were injured and were replaced with Frank Reich and Kenneth Davis. This contributed to them being down 32 points in the third quarter. Another contributing factor being Houston quarterback Warren Moon's first half performance, throwing for 218 yards and 4 touchdowns. Frank Reich watched and learned from him, and receiver Andre Reed got to work in the second half, Reed catching 3 of Reich's 4 second-half touchdowns. After the first half, many at Buffalo's Rich Stadium began to pile up. But as they were driving home and hearing about the comeback on the radio, they began to turn around and come back in. Buffalo scored 35 points in the third and fourth, as opposed to Houston only scoring 7. Despite their collapse, they were able to force overtime, yet still lost. The 41-38 win still remains the biggest comeback in NFL history. Honorable mentions. Since there are so many great games to choose from, there's bound to be some left out. Quickly, these are some honorable mentions. The 1967 NFL Championship game, the 2014 NFC Championship game, the 2007 NFC Championship game, and the 2006 AFC Championship game. And the greatest game ever played in NFL history was Steelers vs. Cardinals in Super Bowl 43. The magnitude, the stakes, the plays, and the close back and forthness makes this game the greatest to ever be played, in my opinion. The game was between the number 1 offense of the Cardinals and the number 1 defense of the Steelers. The best matchup for the best game. The game also had two great stories from the Cardinals side. First being the rebirth of Kurt Warner, from Super Bowl MVP and two-time league MVP to bench warmer back to old season starter trying to get one more final ring. The other story is the Cardinals organization itself trying to break the longest title drought in NFL history. Kurt Warner put his heart into this one, finishing with 377 passing yards, second all-time in the Super Bowl, only behind himself when he won his lone Super Bowl in St. Louis. Another significant record was the two teams became the fourth in Super Bowl history to both have receivers over 100 yards, Larry Fitzgerald of the Cardinals and Santonio Holmes of the Steelers. There are three plays that make this game well known and contribute to its greatness. First one came before halftime when James Harrison intercepted Kurt Warner, returned it 100 yards for a touchdown with no time left in the second, still the longest interception in Super Bowl history. The second was a 64-yard Larry Fitzgerald catch and run with 2:37 remaining, but Pittsburgh wasn't going to be denied their sixth Super Bowl victory, and the Steelers stole the game with Santonio Holmes' tiptoe catch with only seconds remaining. The big plays, the magnitude, the stakes, and the down-to-the-wire nature all contribute to this being the greatest game in NFL history.